And we're back, baby. I've returned from PAX East and I come bearing plenty of new coverage of games. The first of which we'll be checking out this week is Mirage Arcane Warfare. Today in this video, I'm going to give you guys an overview as well as some of my first impressions of the game, covering everything that I learned from playing, from talking to the developer, and then just reading up on it. So let's jump in by starting off with what is Mirage Arcane Warfare. Well, this is a first-person melee combat game with the inclusion of magic. It's being developed by the same company that made Chivalry Medieval Warfare, and as such, it's got similarly deep combat mechanics with the ability to drag your attacks, to block and parry, to combo and reposit, with that extra layer of magic, with different classes having access to different types of magical abilities. The game is set in this colorful Persian and Arabian-inspired world, and it was created on Unreal Engine 4. Now, it's actually been in development since the spring of 2014, which is about 2 years after the launch of Chivalry, which was in October 2012. You know, when the game was first announced last month, I actually saw a pretty negative response to it. I don't exactly know why. Well, I do know. I think a lot of people just wanted Chivalry Medieval Warfare 2, basically, and they didn't want kind of another spin-off, which is how I think some people felt about, let's say, Chivalry Deadliest Warrior. Well, after having played this game, I would say that this is definitely a positive direction that they're taking it in. They've got, again, those similarly deep combat mechanics, but then with the extra layer of magic, they can just make combat a bit more interesting and having an extra layer of depth where you have to consider all of these different these ranged options, these special abilities, classes with the ability to blink so quickly, being able to close a gap on you and stuff like that. So let's talk about the classes. There are 6 total in the game, and again, they each have their own access to different weapons and spells. They're balanced between health and speed, so some classes will have more health and less speed, less health and more speed, having a balance of the two, or some classes have really strong abilities, but very low health and speed. Now, each of them had access to 9 different skills. However, only 3 were available to actually see and try at the events. So let me talk about some of that stuff here. So the first class I'd like to talk about is the Viperous. She's described as an elusive and agile assassin that uses her mobility and speed to cut down foes. She starts off with these 2 daggers, and she's got access to a dashing attack, a shuriken throw, and a teleport. Now, this was the class that I played the most of because I tend to really enjoy the assassin-style characters, and she was a lot of fun. Very mobile, bouncing around, sneaking behind people, and stabbing them with her daggers. Next up, we've got the Alchemaster, and this is nice because this is about as far as a departure as you could get from Chivalry. This is a pure magic-based class, described as a powerful mage that relies solely on the devastating power and capabilities of his magic. So he's got no weapon. He just shoots these little fireballs out of his hands. What he does have access to is a blink, a big fireball that he channels over his head and then smashes onto the ground, and then he can summon a bird, which flies towards you and I guess pecks your eyes out or something like that. He is basically what the difference between Chivalry and Mirage is based off of. It's just a pure magic dude, very weak. He's got low health and low speed, but if left to his own devices, he's going to tear through people with his magical capabilities. And then the next class is the Torrent, a hulking brute that excels at melee and uses his size and physical strength to dominate enemies up close. Another class that I really enjoy the playstyle of. He starts off with a big 2-handed mace, and he's got the ability to do this ground slam. He can also throw a boulder, and I think his third ability was the whirlwind. I didn't actually get to see it in action though, but based on the icon, I believe that's what it is. Now the next 3 classes I actually don't have any footage of. I wasn't able to try, but I have the basic understanding of. First, there's the Tinkerer, which is a defensive trap specialist that uses her cunning and wit to defeat larger opponents. So she'll place traps on key locations throughout the map, and you'll walk into them, and it won't be so good for you. Then there's the Vigilist, a stalwart defender that supports her teammates with her control over the battlefield and knockdown capabilities. Now, while I didn't play her myself, I got to see her played, and it's pretty cool. She can throw her shield, which I think stuns people. She's got access to a ground slam, and then also this AoE bubble, which will absorb incoming projectiles, but not melee. So melee attacks and people can go through it, but it'll stop projectiles from coming through. So cool defensive character. And then the 6th class is the Entropist, a staff-wielding hybrid that has a magic carpet, I guess, and a mixture of offensive and support capabilities. So I guess he's like the balance class. I'd also read somewhere that they are going to have some sort of healing in this game. So if I were to guess, this is probably the class that will have access to that. But again, I didn't get to play him, didn't even get to see him played. So I only have a basic understanding of what he does. Now, each of these classes, again, will have this balance between their health and speed, and then balance as well in check with the abilities that they have access to and their weapons, and then 9 total skills that you can choose from at final release, but again, only 3 were available at the event itself. Now, in terms of the gameplay and what you'll be doing with these classes, well, it's structured in these 6 versus 6 gameplay modes with the 2 teams, the Brashani Emirate and the Azar Cabal, and these are represented in both purple and orange respectively. So you'll start off you'll pick one of the 2 teams at the start of the match, and that's who you'll fight for. That's what color you'll be, and that'll also determine what you're doing on the map. Now, every map will have its own game mode. I got to take a look at 2 game modes and 2 maps, which were Government and Ravine. In Government, we started things off by trying to capture a specific point to unlock this door, and that then allowed us to get access to this payload to push towards the enemy base. Now, in the other map, Ravine, my team actually didn't successfully take the first objective, so I don't know what happens after that. But again, the idea is that every single one of these maps will have its own different unique twist on the game modes, and different things that you'll have to do depending on what team you choose to play as. I guess there's also going to be customization in this game, choosing different clothing and tattoos and scarring for the different character classes, so you can set like these default loadouts. Now, something I'm actually not sure about is whether or not the different classes will have access to different weapons, because that was a big thing in Chivalry, and in the game mode that I played, every class had a specific weapon that they used. I don't know. I want to say that I'm going to assume that they're going to, but I don't want to make an assumption like that, and I couldn't find details as to whether or not these classes will have different weapons like you get access to in Chivalry. So we'll have to wait for more information before we know something like that. But that is basically it. That's a basic overview. Now, in terms of my first impressions, it's from the guys who made Chivalry. If you liked Chivalry and you don't mind the idea of magic, you'll probably like this game as well. It felt pretty good. It played well. I would say personally that I did feel like it was not as weighty as Chivalry's combat, but there could be 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I didn't have my headset on, and that might sound weird, but audio plays a role into kind of the feedback that you get when you play a game. And I didn't have my headset on because I was talking to the developer the whole time, trying to get information, trying to squeeze something out of him. No, I'm not trying. I'm not trying to do something I'm not supposed to. But yeah, I just wanted to learn about the game, so I wanted to talk with him while I was playing. The second reason for this might also be because I spent most of my time playing the assassin character. By her nature, she's probably not going to be as weighty and have as hefty as attacks as like the big guy with the 2-handed mace, for example. Again, it could have just been a set of the circumstances, but the combat didn't feel as weighty to me personally, but there might be reasons for that, and I'm going to wait till we can actually sit down in the comfort of our own home with our headset and get extended playtime before I kind of make that judgment call. The second thing that I would say is I don't know how I feel about how the game is visually presented. Certainly it's like more colorful than Chivalry was, but also that color feels kind of washed. I don't know, it felt a little flat to me. I think that's the word that I would use. While I was playing, visually, it felt a little flat. So I don't know if they need like more saturation or more of a color pop, or just to swing back in the opposite direction, back towards Chivalry, and have less of everything. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think if they're going for this more colorful look, I think it should pop a little bit more too, because maybe it was just the circumstances. Hell, maybe it was the monitor that I was playing on, but again, to me, visually, it just felt a little mono. I don't know. It's just me. That's just my thoughts. But beyond those 2 complaints, it's Chivalry with magic. It's pretty cool. I like Chivalry. I'm definitely going to give this game a look when it comes out. Speaking of which, they've got a beta planned for the summer of 2016, so coming up here right around the corner, with a release slated for later in the year. So if you guys are interested, it's coming out soon, and you'll be able to try the beta in the next few months. But that is going to do it, guys, for me here today. Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out my overview and first impressions of Mirage Arcane Warfare. I want to apologize for not having footage of all the classes. They gave me some some B-roll, but they only showed footage of 3 of the classes. I don't know why. Like, wouldn't you think you'd show... show all of them, but anyways, whatever. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned. We got more coverage and discussion of this game and others from PAX East coming up in the next week or two. Yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a fantastic afternoon. Until next time, I'll see you later.
Yes.